Hello. Let me know you guys see me. All right. We should be live now in the Fierce Woman community. I think I see myself. There we go. Hold on here, just making sure. All right. Hello, everyone. Okay, I think on here, just make, oh, yeah, there I go. See myself. All right, so I see Kamiko popped in, Amber, a couple other people. Make sure you drop a hello, 3 eyeballs. I see. Awesome. So drop a hello below, and Tina is here. Awesome, Tina. I'm going to be giving you a shout out. So it's good that you're here. This is live number 144. Crazy. So, over 100 plus lives. And I know Tina's watched a lot of them, which I'm going to talk about in a bit here. Hi, Lisa. Good to see you. And Brenda jumped in as well. Awesome. All right. Oh, and I need to tag everyone as well. So because usually people need to be tagged going live so that people can find me on body recomposition. Okay. Awesome. Drop a hello if you are joining me. And on YouTube, drop your name as well. And if you are joining me on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss the newest releases, because sometimes we don't release right away, as some of you might have noticed. Depending on my team, I have multiple teams that work with me. When they release it, they might release it tomorrow, they might release it on Friday. Sometimes they release it at different times. So if you don't want to miss any new things, then you want to make sure you hit that subscribe button, okay? Yes, Sparkles, Jennifer, woohoo! I see Phyllis, Cindy, Rita, awesome. Lilani dropped in. Okay, awesome. So today this topic is less fat, more muscle, the road to achieving your ideal body, or the road to body recomposition. Really, that is the topic of this live. So before I dive into my typical introductions and wins, outside of, oh, hi, Vivian, good to see you. Outside of body recomposition, really you're going to be looking at either bulking or cutting, which is something I'm going to be referring to in this live as well. And there is a place for those as well, bulking, cutting, but body recomposition is really the topic of this live, as well as what I specialize in. And I'll be talking about the pros, the cons of why you want to do maybe bulking, maybe cutting, or why body recomposition, and why I potentially lean this direction in body recomposition. Okay. So hi, Barbara, Deborah, Carrie, Kat, good to see all of you. Okay, so we have many, many wins to celebrate. At the beginning of the year, or a couple weeks ago, we are looking for 5 women who want to drop a jean size this month, and there was just a theme of sizes in the pants dropping, And we have already have 2 new people joining our transformation program. So I want to give a shout out to these wonderful ladies. So first is Mara Edwards. If you are on here, Mara, I do believe she mentioned she'll be joining. Hi, Lisa, good to see you. And Sherry and Susan. So Mara Edwards is a massage therapist that is out in Montreal. Vivian, I think she's by you, close by you. And yeah, she's gone through a lot in her life and going through a lot of transition. And she talked about how, doing this program is about like not only physically transforming herself, but mentally, emotionally, and like, decluttering her house and getting rid of a lot of things that she's gone through. So it's a real transformation program for Mara Edwards. So super proud of you. And I love her spirit. She's super positive, and I know we're going to have a great time, Mara. So give her lots of hearts for starting her transformation program. I also wanted to give a shout out to Tina Perna, who is on here. I mentioned I would give her a shout out. So if you don't know Tina, she has been a part of our community almost since the very beginning, I think close to 3 years now. And she is in a wheelchair, and she is on disability. And she has always stood out to us. I know Lisa Pelcher when she was an angel, Debbie Bowman, Oshone, we all know her quite well because she joins into almost every one of our challenges for a long time. And she makes no excuses. And what makes her stand out is there was a workout challenge that we did where there was burpees. And we saw her post videos of herself doing burpees from her wheelchair. She'll get up out of her wheelchair, then she'll go to her counter and do the push-up from the burpee, and then sit back down into her wheelchair and do more burpees. So we called them wheelchair burpees, but that was phenomenal. And we were absolutely, everybody was blown away by her grit, by her determination. And, you know, it's been a long time coming because I know she has been watching almost every one of my lives. When I took her just a couple of days ago, she's like, there's books on you, Clarice. And I was like, what? So she takes notes on every one of my lives. And I think she has attended over 100 of my lives. And she's been such a great student. And now putting all of that into action, right, Tina? We don't want to be info beasts. We don't want to just attend these lives just to learn information, but we want to be able to take action. So I'm super proud of you, Tina, that after 3 years, you are finally taking action to start your transformation program. So please give her lots of hearts. Obviously, if you guys know, being on disability is not easy, and she is financially making it work. She's a solution seeker, and she takes away everybody's excuses around whether they can do something or not. So Tina, super, super proud of you. Yeah, Tina has taken lots of notes, I know. Lots of hearts for you, Tina. We're so proud of you. Hi, Melissa. Hi, Louisa. Yeah, Jennifer says, way to go, Tina. So this live is actually inspired by Angelina Everett's post. You guys might have seen it in the group. It went pretty crazy. Everybody was commenting on her red pants, and obviously I reposted it to my main page, posted over into Instagram, because her post had a lot more to do with what I want to talk about today. You know, Angelina herself has been an amazing example. I think, Lisa, you would relate with her. I think she started around 260 pounds, and she herself had dropped a significant amount through her own hard work and everything. But when she came to me, she still had a bit to go. I think I could be wrong on your numbers. Sorry, Angelina. But yeah, so she had already dropped a lot, but she knew she really wanted to learn how to build more muscle and not just like drop all this fat and have loose skin everywhere, right? So she knew that she wanted to build muscle, but continue to drop fat. So really what Angelina was coming to me for was actually body recomposition. But what I'm going to talk about on this live is that it will look different between just dropping weight really fast versus body recomposition. And if you guys have missed her win post, she posts how she was talking to me in our session, and she was like, okay, I'm struggling mentally. I know, Sherry, you've been there as well. She's like, my weight's not dropping as fast as I want. And we talked a little bit about it. I told her to reframe. I said, like, look at all your metric wins. Okay, so you guys all be the judge of this. Her total metrics drop is close to 60-inch drop. She dropped over 60 inches in her body, 59.66, something like that. Okay, and 11.38 inches off her midsection. Would you all say that is no results? I think you guys know the answer, right? And I said, well, maybe the focus shouldn't be so much on weight, should it be? I mean, you cannot debate the metric changes in your body, right? And she was like, okay, yes, Clarice, right? So, and then of course she goes and gets a pair of pants, and her pair of pants went from, like, she hasn't bought pants for a while, and went from 2X to medium. And that was when she was like OMG, like, okay, I guess Clarice has a point, right? And so if you have not seen her post, put Angelina below, and I would like to tag you on that, because this is extremely important for women, because a lot of you still struggle with it, because it's not just Angelina that's commented this to me. Michelle Carson, I know we talked about this. Sherry, we've talked about this. And so this is very important for women to recognize, like, it's not just about weight, right? Do you guys agree? Yeah, I see people saying awesome, awesome results. Exactly, Phyllis and Jennifer. So if you want to see her win post, put Angelina. Yes, Sharon, I see it. Tina, I see it. Awesome. Okay. And so just in conclusion of our win side of things, we are still looking for 3 more ladies who want to drop a jean size down or a pant size down. So if that's you and you're ready and you're in an action-taking mode, I'm not wanting people who are just like, I'm in la la land and just thinking about it. I want people who are action takers. If you are ready for change, then put 3 below, then we will connect with you, okay? If you want to drop a size, you want to be the last 3 for this month, put 3 below, okay? Yeah, hi, Rosie. Hi, Cindy. Good to see you. Yeah, Cindy, you said 100% exactly, and Sherry. Okay, so let's dive into it. Oh, cool. From NSW. What does that mean? Probably down in the States. No. Yeah, Rosie, you might have to tell me where that is from. Okay, so let's dive into it. So before I get into body recomposition with all 20 eyeballs on here, thank you for joining me. Let's really define what is the differences between bulking, cutting, and body recomposition. I think it's important to understand that so that we have more context as to body recomposition, okay? So the first thing is bulking, okay, is a method, right? And a stage, a phase you put your body through by consuming excess calories, okay? So the goal of consuming excess calories is to actually usually try to help someone gain more muscle mass through resistance training, okay? Now, this type of method may help you put on muscle mass a bit faster. So this is why, you might see a lot of guys talk about this, or in the bodybuilding world, there's this like bulking phase they talk a lot about because, most guys want to gain muscle fast. And in the bodybuilding world, there is an emphasis on building more muscle, right? And so, oh, Australia. Rosie, woohoo! What time is it in Australia? I know usually I've trained a couple clients from Australia, and it's a 17-hour difference. So yeah, thank you for joining us, Rosie. Awesome. So so the purpose is to be able to put more muscle mass on, and usually at a more intense and faster rate. And this is why that surplus in calorie is needed. Typically in a bulking phase, you are going to be eating a lot more carbs, right? And in this phase, you're probably going to gain a little bit of fat, okay? A little bit of fat. Rosie says midday. Oh, okay, it's noontime for you. It's like evening for us here. So yeah, super cool. And you're midday next day. You guys are living. Rosie, you're living my future. That's why I always joke with my Australian clients. You're living one day ahead of me, which is awesome. But yeah, so bulking is typically associated with a little bit of fat gain as well, because you can't really gain muscle and not have a little bit of fat come along with it. Now, if you're somebody who's super lean, super like a lot of competitors, they do this phasing because they're really lean already, and then they want to put extra muscle mass on before the next competition show. So this could work for some people, although for a lot of people and for a lot of women, it doesn't work because it is very scary for a lot of women to try to put on extra muscle and fat at the same time. Okay. So it does work. It does work. And I've gone through all 3 phases. So I understand all 3 phases really well. You got to be really, really good at your nutrition though. So I'll come back to bulking in a bit. I'm curious here, who has actually tried bulking before on here? I'm curious. It would be a minority of women, but I'm curious if anyone in the 31 eyeballs watching have tried bulking before. So you can put bulking below if you've tried it. If not, that's okay. So then let's dive into, oh, hi, Oshone, good to see you as well. You do 250 with battle rope. I'm 76 years. Oh, Rosie's 76 years young. Woohoo! Phyllis, we've got someone, yeah, it's your counterpart close to here, which is awesome. Okay, so the next phase is cutting. So cutting or shredding. So cutting phase is a period in which individuals are now intentionally creating a caloric deficit, okay, to reduce body fat while trying to preserve as much lean body mass as possible, okay? So in this phase, you do want to go on a deficit, and then you're trying to drop fat quite quickly, but still try to not lose too much of your muscle, okay? So with this phase, you're probably going to see increase of cardiovascular cardio type exercises. You still will have resistance training, but in a cutting phase, you will emphasize a lot more cardio. Okay. So for those of you who have friends who are competitors, who known competitors, you guys do know this tends to happen quite a bit. You see competitors on the stair climber, you see lots of cardio, you see a lot of this type of emphasis, right? Because the emphasis is really on dropping that fat down and in a deficit mode. This is where those kinds of where I talked about this before. It's not necessary whether you skip breakfast or not skip breakfast. There's different reasons for it. But this is where maybe you hear some of these philosophies from someone saying, oh, I skip breakfast and I go to the gym. A lot of these philosophies kind of come a little bit from cutting phases. And you will tend to see bodybuilders do this. Without a doubt, you will have to be in cutting phase in your last 8 weeks. If you're a new competitor, maybe 12 weeks, you might have to be in a cutting phase to hit your competition stage. Okay, so this is possible. But again, I'm going to discuss the pros and cons of it. Okay. Yes. Okay, I see you guys are going back and forth here and talking with each other. Awesome. Okay, so now we're going to jump into, and actually I'm curious, who here has done cutting phase as well in our group? I don't know if anybody's put bulking. Yeah, nobody put bulking. That's so interesting. Anybody do cutting? Cutting, you can put it below if you've done cutting phases. Okay, so the third thing we're going to talk about is body recomposition. Okay, so body recomposition was where you simultaneously are decreasing body fat and increasing lean muscle mass. Okay, so it means at the same time. At the same time, you're trying to drop body fat and you're trying to increase muscle at the same time. So to accomplish this, you do need a combination of resistance training. You do need a tiny bit of cardio, not a lot, a tiny bit of cardio, and you need very good balanced nutrition. Okay, so let me repeat that. You need good resistance training, you need a tiny bit of cardio, and you need a very good balanced nutrition. Now, balanced nutrition is the key, which is I'm going to emphasize this more further into my talk. In body recomposition, your knowledge of nutrition needs to be a little bit higher. You need to have a little bit better understanding of what truly is going on if you want to be successful at body recomposition. In body recomposition, there's a lot of precision in maybe adjustment of calories, but even more so on like macronutrient distribution and a little bit in nutrient timing. So this is why if you follow me for a long time, I will talk about 3 things in nutrition: quality, quantity, and timing. Now, you don't necessarily have to talk about all of these maybe as much in some other approaches and some other kind of phasings, but if you are to do body recomposition, your precision of understanding of like macronutrient distribution, nutrient timing, how you adjust calories, all come into play a little bit more because it's just a tiny bit more complex, right? Think about this. If you are sending your body one signal, it's one signal. If you're sending your body 2 signals, then it's going to be a little more complex, right? Because you're trying to lower fat and build muscle at the same time. Okay. So how many of you out of this group listening, where are you at? You feel like you want to be bulking, you want to be cutting, shredding, or you want body recomposition? Which one would you be? So identify that below. Awesome. I see Wanda jumped in and Cindy jumped in as well. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about body recomposition and some of the pros, some of the cons, and then we'll talk about bulking and cutting. Okay. So in terms of body recomposition, this is the approach I specialize in, and this is kind of why. Okay. Body recomposition is a much more sustainable approach. I see Rosie said cut and shred. Okay. Rosie, thank you for sharing. But Debbie says body recomposition. Jennifer says body recomposition. Tina says body recomposition. Yes, I see a lot of body recompositions coming in. Hi, Margaret. Thanks for joining. So I specialize in body recomposition. However, I know how to bulk you and I know how to cut you because I went through all 3, right? Because as a competitor, you almost know, if you've done many seasons of competing, you know exactly what it takes to bulk, to shred, to body recomposite, and to maintain. Okay, so In terms of body recomposition, it is more sustainable long term because it's a slower, more gradual approach. So because it's slower, more gradual, you kind of like slowly build up muscle over time, and then you slowly lose fat over time. And so it's not so shocking to the body. Okay. Bulking and cutting has its merits as well, and I know why you do it. But it does create a little bit more shock effect in your body, right? Where you're really shocking it more with a lot of calories, or you're really cutting back and restricting those calories. And it's possible, but it might be slightly less sustainable, right? Those of you who've competed, or Oshone or myself, Oshone, I know you're on here. We know you can't be in a shred phase forever, right? Like Oshone is not in a shred phase forever. I'm not in a shred phase forever. So it's just not sustainable as long term. It's possible you can experience that for a season, but I like body recomposition because it is sustainable more long term. And from a psychological perspective, body recomposition is a lot more safer from a psychological perspective, because for a lot of people, if you do bulking and cutting, bulk phases and cutting phases, a lot of people's minds get played with a little bit, because they have to like really convince themselves it's okay to eat this much, to eat more food and gain fat along with it, because they're going to gain muscle with the ultimate goal of cutting it back eventually. But the mind has to really accept that they're going to weigh a little bit more, that they might be a little bit fluffy. Okay, those of you who've competed, if you are watching this, we know it's true. If you follow any major IFBB pros, they all get a little bit fluffy in off season, and it's okay. They even post posts on about it, and I read a post that was like, if you want lots of muscle, you better expect or accept it, better accept the fluff, right? Because they know, I mean, obviously these competitors' muscle mass is huge, that they're going to get fluffy. Yes, fluffy, exactly, Vivian. They're going to get fluffy for a season, and they're okay with it, right? So this is psychologically sometimes really hard for women, but I think that a lot of competitors know why. Like, I've gone through a bulk phase, and I knew why. Because I mean, when I was getting ready for my next show, I knew I was going to step on stage with more muscle mass, right? So psychologically, you have to just be prepared for that. And then the cutting phase, fluffy, I like that. People are laughing about the fluffy. Some people are saying I couldn't go fluffy. Exactly. There's a bit of psychological game. And then on the cutting side, it's a bit of a psychological game as well, okay? Those of you who have done extreme cutting, bodybuilding competitions, and honestly, if you've dieted, it's one thing, but if you've cut, like for a bodybuilding competition, it's slightly different. Like if you're just dieting because you didn't know anything about nutrition, you're just starving yourself, it's not the same as cutting. Cutting has a very strategic approach. I would say mainly competitors know this phase, the cutting phase, very well. It's very psychologically hard because you have to create a lot of restrictions, right? You no longer can you say 80-20, okay? Those of you I coach, I always give you that, hey, 80-20, yes, it's your birthday. Go eat your birthday cake. You know, I ate a massive what is it, chocolate cheesecake when Debbie and Oshone, we went out, and we do that I do that on purpose to show you like, hey, it's okay to enjoy a little bit when you're cutting and really trying to bring down your percentage fat. Unfortunately, it's not like that, okay? You're gonna have to be a little bit firmer, stricter, and you should be probably like 98 to 100% clean, okay? And so most people can't really take that. That's a really hard approach unless you have a goal. So if you're a competitor, you totally can do it. You know why you're doing it. But it's not really sustainable on a long-term basis. So the psychological effects of bulking and cutting is a little bit harder, but you can do it. Everyone's done it before. Like competitors done it. I've done it, but it's just not as sustainable. So is why I'm trying to explain this to you. Okay. Uh, uh, I seem to be squishy, Phyllis says. Yeah. And Phyllis, for you, also just to keep in mind, because Phyllis, I know you're, up in the 70s, like I would just say as you age, you probably don't want to like do too extreme. I think body recomposition is just a healthier approach. Not that it's possible to. I've seen competitors that are old, like 70, 80, compete on stage. So you still could do a bulk and cut, but you really have to have a very, very good coach, someone who really knows your nutrition well. But on a more health basis, I would say body recomposition keeps you more stable overall, right? So, okay, so let's talk a little bit about, okay, so I said pros of body recomposition, okay? So we're gonna talk a little bit of cons of body recomposition, okay? So the con, like the drawback of body recomposition is it takes more time. Okay. This is something that I want all of my own clients to recognize. I want all of you listening, if this is the approach you take, it takes a little more time. It doesn't have as fast of results as someone who's doing like straight cutting or, like these other approaches. So you just have to be willing to be like, hey, slow and gradual wins the race. That if you do it right and foundationally, principally, you follow good nutrition principles, and of course, you have a coach guiding you, we're tracking everything. Slower is okay. Let's not go for these like fast things if it's not sustainable, unless you have a specific goal behind that. Okay. So you have, for my own clients, this is the thing. Even I'm not gonna name names, not her yet, because I don't know if she's open for me sharing. But I was just reading one of my clients' text messages, and she said, "I would have hoped by now I would have seen more changes because I am now eating clean, and it's been 1 month since she's been back on track." And for me, I told her to come on to this live because I said, you know what? Yes, you will start to see changes, but our expectations of how fast we want things to be, you might have to adjust it if we're looking at body recomposition, because things are reshifting. You're gaining muscle, you're working out. There's more nutrient and blood flow in your muscles. You might weigh a little bit more, weigh the same, but it doesn't mean nothing is happening in your body, right? Is that clear, everyone? Does not mean if you don't see any changes on that scale, nothing is happening. So that's why this understanding, this takes more time, is really important. And the second drawback, been there. Yeah, Debbie says been there. Me too. I want the 6-pack abs yesterday. You guys are funny. Yeah, this is everyone. Everyone wants to see results faster, right? So, but I'm trying to help people understand body recomposition takes time. And secondly, a second drawback is the precision in nutrition. This is the second drawback of body recomposition. If you want to be very good at body recomposition, it requires very careful attention in nutrition. You need to balance the right amounts of calories, macronutrients, and timing, usually to achieve a good result. And usually you need some guidance from an expert in the field, or that you do multiple trial and errors on your own, which is possible, but it just takes you longer. I was talking to a guy at the gym the other day, and he is kind of in this phase of body recomposition, and he's been experimenting for the past year and a half. So good for him. Like, he said he wants to just keep experimenting over the path. So he's trying to figure out, he hasn't quite achieved it yet, but he keeps playing around over the past year and a half. So my take on it is, like, if you're okay with like a year and a half and experimenting, that's totally okay. If you're not wanting to waste that much time, you're more results driven, which is me. That's why I have coaches. I don't like wasting time. Like, I like to do the result, like do the work, know it's leading to some sort of result, even if it takes longer. So it's kind of up to each person, right? But the precision in nutrition is very required for body recomposition. Hi, Maya. Hi, Don. Photos are required and hard to be precise. Yeah. Precision, as you know, Deb, because she's in my program, it requires you to track, right? You got to be willing to track. So, all right. Okay, actually, I'll go into this part first and ask questions. So why might you potentially want to bulk and cut? Okay, so let's talk about the pros and cons behind this. So if you might want to potentially bulk, if you're trying to look to gain muscle very fast, see the word fast, and also if you want a high quantity of muscles. So again, in the bodybuilding field, they want a massive back. When I hit national stage, I wanted those muscles to pop. So you have a goal. You have a goal. You know you want to get a lot of muscle and you want it faster. So you might go the bulking phase. The cutting phase is about the same. If you want to drop fat faster, you might try the cutting phase. Or if you have like aesthetic goals, you might try the cutting phase, let's say for a competition or for, let's say, photo shoots. So yes, no surprise, if you see any fitness athletes and photo shoots, most of them have gone through some cutting phase, and they must have had a coach or someone knows how to help them achieve a cut, right? And so this is it has specific goals behind it. Again, I'm not saying necessarily it's bad, but I think that you just have to know that it's not as sustainable. So if someone is really good with nutrition and really understands it, then you also can become an expert where you can go take your body from body recomposition to bulk phase to back to shred phase to back to body recomposition. It is possible. You just have to be very good at knowing how to dial your macros, understand the psychological effects of bulking and cutting, and being very, very mindful of all of this. Now, it's possible, but not easy. Okay. So it is a season then. Yeah, like bulking and cutting is a season, correct. You don't stay in it forever, for sure. That's why there is also maintenance mode, right? So bulking, cutting, and body recomposition is technically a season as well, although body recomposition can be sustained overall much longer because you're just gradually doing it over time, right? So it can be sustained much longer. Yes, that'd be really good. Yeah, and tofu and broccoli, Rosie. Yeah, yeah, and the good food choices, right, behind that. So, what are the drawbacks of bulking and cutting? So if the drawback of bulking is you're potentially going to gain more body fat, and that's of course a part of bulking. But if you know how to cut it, then you're okay. The problem becomes if you don't know how to cut it. So I have seen women go into a bulk phase because they were told to go into a bulk phase, but they don't have any idea how to actually cut it. Because you know what? It's pretty easy to gain weight and gain more because you're eating surplus and calories and all of that. Um, and not even really care about quality of nutrition, and you can gain. But then when you need to bring that fat down, you're going to need to make sure like you've got some good knowledge of like nutrition, your quality of food, those macro distributions. So if someone is to go into a bulk phase, they better know how to back it off to a cut phase. And if you're in that, if awesome, like, Rosie, if you're a pro in that, awesome. Most people don't have that type of knowledge. I've spoken to women in the locker room who have told me they've been in bulk phase and then they gained whatever 15 pounds and now they have a hard time losing it. Now, I remember one of the women that I talked to was over 40 something, I think maybe hitting it into 50, close to menopause. And I said to her, I said, be very careful. I said, because now at this phase, you're not just gaining weight, you're actually playing with your hormone signals as well, right? And it becomes harder for a menopausal woman to lose the fat once they've gained it. Possible, but just harder. Okay, so being very cautious of do we want to move into a bulk phase? If you are a competitor, that is a different conversation. And that would be something you would have to work very closely with your coach, and your coach knows what to do and how to back you off. You wouldn't have a problem. But if you're doing it by yourself and you're like, I should bulk because I want more muscle, just be very careful about that. Okay. Does your body get confused? Yeah, it can get confused for sure, Debbie. Especially what I'm saying when I say bulk phase is if people bulk but don't care about quality of food. Okay, it comes back to this. You can bulk, you can gain weight. Actually, it's probably easier to gain than to cut for most people. For most people, okay, it's easier to gain, but you could gain without paying attention to quality of food. But to lose, you have to be a little more cognizant of quality of food. So imagine the person went into bulking but didn't have good understanding of quality of food, and then trying to back it off and not having that understanding of quality food and staying stuck with the weight now, right? And that's hard. And if they gained it, especially belly fat, as we've spoken about, now they're emitting different types of hormone into their body, creating a more difficult situation to now lose that fat down. So that's what I'm saying is possible. It just now complicates things a little bit more, kind of like what you're saying, Debbie, complicates things a little bit more. Hi, Monica. Thanks for joining. So, and then in the what's the drawback for cutting? The drawback for cutting is potential for muscle loss. Okay. So again, if you don't know how to cut your phases down, you're going to risk losing muscle. This is very common because of what do most people do when they're cutting is go on a caloric deficit, which is needed for a cut phase. But that means your potential for losing muscle mass starts to increase unless you're monitoring very closely what is happening in your workouts and in your nutrition uptake. And at the base of it, when you go into a cut phase, you likely will lose some muscle mass. That is almost unavoidable. Every competitor knows that. So that's why competitors try to put more muscle mass on, because they understand in a cut phase, they will lose some muscle along with it, okay? But there's ways and protocols behind how to minimize the fat loss, okay? So the cut phase is about caloric deficit, where you lose fat, but you try to lose as little muscle mass as possible. Okay. So, hi, Marilyn. Thanks for joining. Awesome. I love your picture. She changed her profile picture and she looks awesome. So with everyone listening, wait, one more thing I want to talk about. So bulking and cutting, the next drawback is mental and emotional. So again, the mental emotional strain of gaining and losing weight, gaining, bulking, and trying to restrict calories typically gets kind of stressful for a lot of women. And so this is why this can become an emotional roller coaster. And those who compete know it can be quite an emotional situation because it goes up and down. And it is possible, and we are meant to do hard things. Clarice still believes in competition, but I believe you need to know what you're doing. Make sure you have a really good coach. Make sure it's someone who really understands the nutrition and is not just pushing for just results without caring about your body. Because there are unfortunately in the competitive field a lot of people who are pushing for just the aesthetic look, and they're not mindful of what's truly happening in your body. Case in point, I just spoke to an individual at the gym. He's a male competitor from India, huge, big body, but he talked about it. He said, yeah, he had to take, obviously, and this is not what we at all, we don't promote this, but yeah, in the high level competitive bodybuilding world, taking gear, which is steroids. And I asked him what he took, and he named off like 7 compounds. I was like, I have no idea what these things are, And then he turned to me and said, but I like what you're doing because you truly teach people to truly be healthy inside out and not just for a look on stage. And I said, I said, I appreciate that. And he said he's gotten off of steroids, but he said, my goal is to get back into competing here in Canada. And I said, okay. I said, awesome. Are you going to do it naturally? And he said, well, no, first of all, he can't do it naturally now that he's taking stuff. Like the association would never accept him. He would still go back on gear. So I was like, oh, okay, well, just be safe. Just be safe, because there's so much negative consequences and people, having major health complications taking stuff like that. And himself said, in that competitive bodybuilding world, there's a lot of people who are looking for the look, but they're not truly healthy inside out. And I said, absolutely. And so my take is I want to teach you guys to be as healthy, as fit as possible, but let's do it naturally, right? Let's do it in the right way. And let's not really risk our body so that on the outside we think we look healthy, but really on the inside we're destroying our body, right? So yes, Kat, is protein sparing cut best approach for cutting and retaining muscle? Like you want a protein sparing approach? You might have to just rephrase that question for me, Kat. Hi, Marie, and hi, Wanda. Good to see you. Wanda, good to see you. It's been a long time. Sherry says amen. Exactly. So for those of you who are listening, yeah, like let me know, like I guess where are you sitting? I think most of you already answered, like body recomposition. Do you want body recomposition? Do you want bulking, or do you want cutting? Okay. And just because you bulk, by the way, doesn't mean you take steroids. That was just an example. Like you could bulk with natural foods too. You can bulk totally naturally. Like I mentioned, I've experienced all three stages. Is why I can teach this very well. It's why I know intrinsically what it takes to bulk you, what it takes to cut you, what to do for body recomposition. But after doing it, over the years, I recognize body recomposition is probably the most sustainable and usually the healthiest, maintainable approach, right? So, which one are you? Are you body recomposition, or which one would you like to be in? Body recomposition, bulking, or cutting? Um, Good for you, Clarice. I appreciate that about you. Oh, thank you, Rosie. I appreciate that too. Yeah, it's a very interesting world like out there. That was a very interesting conversation because he was actually telling me himself, like as a bodybuilder who's on like many gear and things, that he actually truly appreciates what I do. And I'm like, that's so interesting, right? Like it's so interesting because yeah, even though he takes things, he knows that really the healthy way is to do it naturally, like what I'm teaching. So that's really cool. Maria said, absolutely great. Natural is the only way. Thanks for your comments. Yes, thank you, Maria. I appreciate that. Yeah, so I see body recomposition from Jennifer and Marilyn. Awesome. Okay, so we're gonna break this down now. Okay, as this live is now, it was about sort of less fat, more muscle, right? So we are gonna kind of dive a little bit deeper into what body recomposition requires. So the basic premise behind this, okay, and then we're gonna break it down, is that fat loss will mainly come from nutrition. So you have to know your nutrition well. Building muscle will come from training in the gym and with proper support of nutrition and sleep. Okay. If you don't take anything else away from this live and you say Clarice speaks for too long, um, just capture that one phrase and that will help you understand a lot. Okay. Basic premise is fat loss will mainly come from nutrition and knowing your nutrition well. Building muscle will come from training in the gym and with the proper support of nutrition and sleep. Okay, so let's break this down. Sherry says, body recomposition to ensure healthy insides, life longevity, if I take care of my health. Yeah, exactly. You're welcome, Debbie and Nicole and Debbie. Yes. Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's break this down. So the first statement is fat loss will mainly come from nutrition. Okay. So I mentioned above, body recomposition requires more precision in your nutrition than ever before. You need to know it well. So first thing is you need to track. Okay. If you're taking notes, if you're like Tina, taking notes, take notes on this. Track. You cannot just guess your way to a better body recomposition. The complexity behind it is very high. You don't just guess that I'm going to somehow less fat, more muscle, right? Your body is adaptation machine. It goes for the least resistance. It's easier to gain weight. It's easier to hold on to fat. So if you're trying to change these things, it's going to take a lot of intentionality, right? So you have to track. You have to track your food, track your nutrition, and you have to understand what is going in your body. If that is not tracked, that is very hard for you to body recomposite. Okay. So those of you who are listening, make sure you track. Okay. Tina. You're so funny, Tina. I know, Tina, if you don't get it, you will go back and study my lives. Tina, I would like to see all these notebooks, Tina. That would be very impressive that you've been taking notes all this time. So the next thing is you need to manage your caloric intake. So what I mean by this is when you are in a body recomposition state, you need to be in a slight caloric deficit, but not so low that now you compromise your muscle building potential. So this is kind of a tricky ground and is why I kind of mentioned to a lot of the ladies that I'm training, or Mara who just came on, is it Mara? Whoever I just in took, I said, I need to watch you for a little bit before I give you your caloric intake because everybody has a certain set point, and I want to know where your set points are and then figure out where is that line. Because there's a line where you kind of have to be on a deficit, but you kind of can't be too low. Okay. Now, you can't be too low because you will not only mess up your metabolism and cause adaptive thermogenesis if you go too low in your calories, meaning your metabolism tunes itself down and now you have a slower burning metabolism, right? So we can't do that. And if you go too low, your body is just not going to build muscle. Like you might lose weight, but you're not building muscle. And the whole goal of body recomposition is what? Lose fat, build muscle, right? So being very cautious of the caloric intake. And if I'm working with you, that's kind of what I'm looking at. And that's why, for those of you who eat very little, and some of you, my own clients, know who you are. I've been on your case a little bit. And then when we can increase the calories, I'm really happy to hear it, right? Because the goal is to make sure that you're not staying too low and you have a good enough caloric intake for that muscle build, okay? Debbie says I occasionally mess the metabolism. Yes, Debbie, and tracking. Tracking is key. Remember, Debbie, that's something we can't skip. No matter whether I give you calories or macros, if you skip tracking, you will skip your data. And you skip your data, now you have inaccurate data to go by. And your coach can only go by what you give them. If you give them inaccurate data, I mean, that's it, right? They can only go by what. So, your name is really cool. I like it. Tina, yes, I will go back and I'll show you all my notes someday. Yes, that's awesome. So the next thing, so this is still on the topic of fat loss will come mainly from nutrition. Okay, so the third thing is you have to balance your macros. So remember what I said at the very beginning. At the very beginning, I said, bulking is caloric surplus. Cutting is caloric deficit. And then I said body recomposition is balance of nutrition. So what I mean by that is I'm going to explain it here. You need to optimize your nutrient uptake that involves a balance of protein, carbs, and fat. Now, it doesn't mean that bulking and cutting doesn't have like protein, carbs, and fat. They're just a little bit more imbalanced because they're trying to achieve a certain outcome. In a body recomposition, we need to balance this protein carb fat ratio really well. And we have to ensure we don't overdo any one macro. Rosalinda, if you're on here, I always use her as an example because she was just so high in a certain macro. And for those of you who don't know Rosalinda, she's also a trainer and she competed at 57 in fitness competitions. She looked amazing, but she started gaining weight very fast when she hit over 60. And then she came to me for her transformation program. And one of the things is that as a trainer, she knows certain things, but she was not cautious of those macro balances I talked about. And that was one of the biggest things I caught in her food when she was logging for me, right? That's why I always use her as an example, right? Hi, Michelle. Thanks for joining us. So here are some things that you need to take into account. So you need to balance protein, carbs, and fat. To answer people's question, 31 eyeballs on here, I always get asked, so what's my macros? And the answer is, I don't know until I know you. Until you tell me and log for me what's your nutrient uptake, what you do in the morning, how long you work out, how hard you work out, how many steps you take a day, your sleep, your quality of sleep. Are you a high stress person? How do you handle mindset things in a day? Those things are really crucial to how I determine what to do for you. Angelina Everett, who posted about her pant size, we're currently working on her cortisol, actually. Yes, she dropped a lot of things, but there's certain things about her lifestyle that I'm a little bit honing in on. And I would only know that because she's tracking for me. And we had discussions around this. So macros are not this like static thing where you just go to a computer and you type it in and this is your macros. Sure, you're going to get a general macro assignment, better than none. But if you get general macros, you get general results, which is what I always say. So you will need someone, or if yourself experimenting, you need to experiment a lot to figure out your precise macro distribution, okay? Now, you have a few things you need to keep in mind in order to understand what to consider when you are doing your macro distributions. And I'm specifically talking to menopausal women right now, okay? Because there are very specific considerations as a menopausal woman you must consider. First of all, I spoke about this last week. If you missed my last week's live on hormones, which was like crazy popular, and even like guys were wanting to see it, like it was like just super popular. It's like a very complex hormone talk. You can put hormones below if you want to watch that live. But I spoke about as you age, your propensity for insulin resistance rises. Your body starts moving into a potential insulin resistant mode, possibly. Everyone's different, but there is a higher chance. So you need to keep that in mind because insulin resistant relates to how you eat and the entrance of sugar, the entrance of carbs into your system. So you have to ask yourself, do you know these things when you are designing your macros? Okay. Another thing you need to consider. Yeah, I see hormones, Nelsia. Yes, we will tag you in it. And Nelsia, you're a nutrition coach from what I remember. So I'm sure you know a lot of this already, but thank you for joining in. So the next thing is the need for fiber. I spoke about it last week as well. The need for fiber is important for everyone, but the need for fiber in menopausal women contributes to hormone balance and relates to estrogen balancing. And so, again, do you know these things? Do you understand, well, okay, what will I need in my food profiling to make sure we ensure that balance, right? So there's that. You also need to consider that women's, especially as they age more, their preferential source of energy mainly comes from fat, not carbs. In terms of the research they have done and tracking the energy usage in the body while a woman exercises, the preference is for fat, not for carbs, whereas men's preference is carbs, not fat. And so these are things you have to really keep in mind because that does affect where your macro distributions need to sit. And these are the nuances that I feel like a lot of coaches and in the industry does not really maybe talk about, or maybe they don't teach it. Okay, because there's so much talk about, I can give you your macros, here's your macros, here's what it is. I pop it into a calculator. There's macro calculators everywhere, but they do not talk about the nuances behind understanding the balance of nutrition. And this is what I'm really big on because I think that it's so much complex. Well, if you guys were all like robots, sure, I could put your metrics into a calculator, calculate it out for you. You're not a robot, right? Like I could not do anywhere near the macros, and I always use Vivian as an example that she has. Vivian is now, I don't know, 2,300 calories. And we're still trying to figure out to increase her starch carb ratio. Like we're still trying. And if, yeah, like her body is incredible, but like it's not going to be my body and I'm not going to have those macros, right? So just really recognizing you have to understand balance of macros. So before I continue, everyone watching on here, if you feel like you need better understanding of body recomposition calories and macros, I want you to put this acronym below, BRCM. BRCM, body recomposition calories macros, okay? If you believe you need to have better understanding of body recomposition calories and macros, I want you to put BRCM, okay? Um, yeah, Vivian says 14 times dial macros. Yeah. Well, your body is very unique and it's very cool. And you obviously are a great example. Your pictures are up, but yeah, I won't reference which ones, but her pictures are one of our examples. Like she's incredible. Okay, so BRCM if you want body recomposition calories and macros. So I see Katrina said that, Dawn, Melanie, Melanie, I'm going to be helping you with that because she is in my transformation program, but she's only first 2-3 weeks. So we're getting there. Rosie, Cindy, Jackie, Rita, awesome. Okay, so we're still continuing with the same theme of fat loss will come mainly from nutrition, okay? So the last point I want to make here is, of course, you do need to emphasize protein intake. In a body recomposition approach, you do need to balance all of them, but it is true that protein is a very important compound, and every coach does talk about protein being very important. I do find a lot of women don't eat quite enough protein, and this really impacts their ability to build muscle. Again, the purpose of body recomposition is to lose fat, gain muscle. A lot of women get very caught up on trying to lose weight, right? Trying to drop it on the scale. And they're forgetting that if they don't take enough protein and all this other stuff, they might look lighter on the scale, but it ain't the way you want it, to be honest. It might be more satisfying for you psychologically because you see the scale move down, but you didn't build any muscle. In fact, more than likely you lost muscle. More than likely you lost muscle. So sometimes, ladies, if you are trying to lose weight and you see that scale move down and you aren't good with your nutrition, or you've skipped the gym, you're not really lifting weights, be careful about celebrating the win of losing weight, because you're actually celebrating loss of, right? Just trying to be honest with all of you ladies, and be very honest with understanding the right way to understand looking at the scale, the right way of understanding nutrition, right? So, and we don't want to lose muscle. As you age, you do not want to lose muscle. It's not a good thing, right? So you need to emphasize protein intake, and you need to make sure that you know, again, those macros. And I know above people already put they want the BRCM, the body recomposition calories and macros. And so if you already indicated that, we'll reach out to you to try to help you with that side of things. Okay. You spoiled my scale. Debbie, I told you to put away the scale. During her first few months, when Debbie first came to me, she was so attached to her scale. I said, you will not get on that scale. I said, I only want photos and I only want metrics. Now, for most of my other clients, I do want the pounds because I want it as an indicator. But for Debbie, her mind and her psychology was so attached to it that I had to take her away from that for the first few months of her program. So, all right. So, yes. So we put nutrition or the BRCM if you want help with your nutrition. All right. We're going to move on to the next part of body recomposition. And we still have 20 eyeballs on here. So thank you for sticking with me. So to emphasize resistance training is our next part, right? Because losing fat is mainly nutrition, but building muscle has to do with you making sure you do go to the gym. Okay. No, ladies, you cannot skip that. We know that. You can focus on nutrition, but if you end up not going to the gym and skipping it, muscle does not just magically appear because you eat well. Okay. Sometimes some of my clients, even my own clients, they know I'm helping them with nutrition. So they're like, yes, my nutrition is like good now. And then they skip their workouts. Right. So we got to be honest with ourselves, right? Like your muscles don't magically appear from just good nutrition. Okay. So strength training is where you are going to build muscle. Strength training, you need to involve good compound movements and involve multiple muscle groups, okay? Make sure your program has that. If you have a coach, they would have already thought about these things. They would have taken all these things into consideration. I've done that. I'm not calling, oh, you're talking about the scale, Jennifer. I see you're talking about something like that. My scale broke. Oh yes, Sherry's scale broke. Yeah. It told her weight was totally inaccurate, and her son got on it, and her son is very lean, and it said he was 250 pounds. So Sherry, yeah, in those instances, we definitely don't want to try. Yeah. So in terms of resistance training, not only do you need to have compound movements, multiple muscle groups, you also want to ensure that you have progressive overload, which I've spoken about in some of my other muscle building lives. So progressive overload is where you're starting to adjust the weights, the reps, and sets to create increasing difficulty in your lifting, okay? Now, I do this more, so I would say as my clients get better at their workouts, let's just say in the beginning, they're getting used to working out, they're getting used to training. And then as they get better and better at their workouts, I might say, for example, Tracy, but she's not on here. Tracy's sending me lots of video checks because she's a muscle accelerator, and she's working on bar squat, like with the full bar and bar deadlifts. And that was one of her goals. And so, like, for example, as she's improving in that, I'm saying now you need to put these weight on there. I want you to go heavier now. So it's like there has to be a progression, and doesn't mean progression that it always has to be like a full program makeover. Okay. I was saying that to Rochelle. Oh, Rochelle, I'm sorry. Is she on here? I forgot, by the way, Rochelle is also our new transformation client. Give her lots of hearts. Sorry, she just started yesterday. So Rochelle also joined the transformation program yesterday. And she was asking me like, do I change the program all the time? And yeah, so sorry, Rochelle, you are a part of that roster of celebrating ladies in the transformation program. But like, and I said to her, no, I don't change it like all the time because I don't believe you should like constantly change your program too much. Then you confuse the muscles and you have no ability to build on it, but you can progress it. You can make it heavier. You can have reps and more sets. A full program makeover, I would say maybe after a handful of months is good. But regardless, it needs to be progressive overload, as in there has to be some increments in terms of your training. And then to keep making it more difficult, whether changing reps, sets, or weight. And then one more thing. Yay. Yes, Rochelle, everyone's cheering for you. So awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Debbie. You're so sweet. And the other part is to improve technique. Okay. And if you put progressive overload, I know the standard is reps, sets, and weight, right? Those of you who have knowledge in weightlifting, you're like, of course, you adjust reps, weights, and sets, right? But a lot of people forget technique. And that's something I'm very big on because I find that if your technique is not honed in or advanced, you miss out a lot in the training. So an example would be depth. Okay. So if I say Bulgarian split squats, whose favorite is that? Debbie, Bulgarian split squats. You love it. Okay. The Bulgarian split squats, if you're going a quarter weight down on your Bulgarian split squats for me, well, I mean, you're doing 10 reps of it, but you're not hitting 90 degrees. That 90 degrees makes a big difference. And when I want you to take it to a higher level, I expect you to go all the way down. Of course, if you have the mobility, there might be a bit of mobility issue. But if you have no mobility issue, I expect that weight to go all the way down on your Bulgarian split squat. And I'm going to tell you the difficulty of the exact same move with higher level technique is going to give you so much results instead of just going, oh, well, just give me a different move, right? A lot of people are just like, give me a different move. And I say, well, no, let's improve the technique of that move. And you're going to watch your growth in that, right? So technical advancement is also another way of progressive overload. Okay. So keep that in mind for resistance training of improving muscle development in your body. And even more so, since we're on this train, if we're talking about Bulgarian split squats, it does matter the placement of your body. If you're more vertically over your Bulgarian split squats versus having a lean on your Bulgarian split squats, it changes the direction of the hit of the muscle. So depending on what I want you to emphasize, for example, if I feel like your butt is not developed enough and you need more butt, less gut, as they say, more butt, less gut, then I might say, okay, I need you to maybe adjust the angle of your Bulgarian split like this way. And even that is a progression. And a lot of people don't see it that way because they see that the progression is a number. But I see progression as also qualitative. Okay, qualitative. And like just like Sherry said, you corrected my deadlift technique has changed my butt. Exactly. Makes a big difference, right? If you really, really know how to do deadlifts properly, how to hone in on the angles or the on the quality of the movement, right? So hi Adasel, thanks for joining us. I did them wrong for months and then did did it right. Yes, yes. I think you came to see me one time, Debbie, that I had corrected something, and then you were like, I really felt it, right? So I think those was the roles when we did it together. So okay, so still on the topic of emphasizing resistance training. So the thing is, you want to make sure that you have consistency. So that's another thing you want to put down there. So ensure that the resistance program you have is something you can keep at for a while, right? Meaning it's doable, you can sustain it, you can keep going at it. This is really key because the whole concept of body recomposition is that it's not fast results. You have to take time to lose fat, build muscle in this gradual way. So ensure that it's something you feel like you can keep going at it, and that it fits your lifestyle as well. And why I say that is because obviously, with different clients of mine that I've spoken to, we've adjusted certain parts of the program just because just their lifestyle is just very, very, very stressful, very busy. And I think that's important because I think like, there's certain ways that we want a program to be designed, but if it's not fitting your lifestyle and you end up skipping all your workouts, well, there's no point to it. You're not sustaining, you're not creating a body recomposition state for your body because you keep skipping your workouts. So I'd much rather that you have a good program that you can like continue and you can keep going and you can stay consistent during it. Okay. Consistency is very important, more than intensity. Okay. Consistency over intensity will get you long-term results. Okay. So for those of you who are listening, for resistance training and building muscle part, if you feel like you need to have better programming or better like progressive overload, and you need help with kind of like resistance training, put program below just to indicate like you need more guidance on how to work out or what to progress or how to progress. Okay. So put program or workout program below. Okay. So that's the next part. So remember what I said above. So you need to have really good understanding of nutrition to drop fat. You have to have good muscle building program. Katrina, I see you just put program there. Yes. So we'll connect with you to build muscle properly. Okay. So I talked about both. Okay. Now I'm going to talk about the third thing that is going to be really important is other lifestyle factors that we need to make sure we're aware of. Okay. So other lifestyle factors for body recomposition. One is sleep. Okay, so sleep is a very crucial thing that we is emphasized a lot now, and I know a lot of you are very cautious of it. But your muscle is largely built during your sleeping period, okay? It is built outside of sleep as well, but a large part of the hormonal profiling, the repair process, all of that happens in your sleep, okay? So if you work out so hard, you work on your nutrition so hard, but you're not really like monitoring your sleep, then you shortchange yourself. And that would include Clarice. Clarice is not very good with sleep, but I have improved a lot. I would say actually over the past year and a half, I've improved significantly, and I am very proud of myself for that. So I used to not care about sleep, and my coach, my bodybuilding coach when I competed always was on me for that. And I think back to it, I'm like, man, I wonder how much more muscle I could have built if I actually prioritized sleep, you know? So I'm definitely like calling myself out on it too. But as in like you think like all these things are so important, but then like this like third thing a lot of people don't pay attention to, which is sleep, you know? So, Nicole, I do see the program that you mentioned. Yes. Debbie says cortisol reduction in sleep. Yes, exactly. So that's what I'm going to say next. So the next thing is managing your mindset and stress level, which is your cortisol level, is what Debbie was just saying there. So we just need to be very cautious of our cortisol levels in our body by making sure we control our mindset, that we're aware of our thoughts. Even a thought like what Angelina had, but it's okay because she had me as a coach to talk her through it of, oh, nothing is happening in my body. I'm not dropping weight. Like that's a stress response, right? And it's learning how to like reframe those thought processes. Like when your mind goes there, how do you catch the thought? How do you reframe that out? And it is a skill set, okay? So stress management, mindset matters. Making sure you work on that. If you don't, make sure you have someone who's willing to work with you on it. And I would say, like for me, mindset is a very crucial thing. I work with a lot of my clients as needed. Okay. So it's not like just out of blue, just mindset, but certain people need it more. Like Debbie needs it a little bit more. Angelina may need it. Michelle Carson needs it. Sherry sometimes needs it. And you might be someone who doesn't need it as much, but like most people need a little bit of like reframing guidance. So monitoring your stress, trying to find time to um, like meditate, journal, that type of thing is going to be really important. Making sure you stay hydrated. Okay. Water, 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 water. Yes. Drink lots. I always carry that big jug. You guys have seen it. And it's so funny because everywhere I go, whenever I walk into any place, including a restaurant or some place, everyone looks at me and they go, you must be really into fitness. I'm always like, what gives it away? you know, because I'm carrying such a big water jug that people just laugh at me, they know that I'm really into fitness, but water helps you lower your stress levels because your body's not stressed out, is stressed out if it's dehydrated and less stressed out if it's not. It supports metabolic processes, and drinking enough water helps your rest and recovery as well, right? Yes, meditating. Exactly. Sherry says, you taught me not everyone's requires the same amount of sleep. It's knowing your body and recognizing when your sleep is deprived. Yes, exactly. So Sherry makes a good point here. As in, not everybody needs exactly like 8 hours of sleep or 10 hours of sleep, or whatever people say, 8 or 9. Everybody's body's need is different. The importance is your quality of sleep, and do you feel fully rested? If you feel fully rested at 6 hours, that's great. And so that's what I mean is good quality sleep. And then, okay, so the lifestyle factors: sleep, managing your stress, staying hydrated, okay? And the other lifestyle factor that I want you guys to keep in mind for body recomposition, okay, and breath work. Yes, Maria, breath work is very important. Learning how to breathe, like with your diaphragmic breathing is really important. If you do yoga, meditation, those are really helpful. So this last point though, is making sure you monitor your progress beyond the scale. Okay, so this is related to Angelina's post and really the point of really the inspiration for today's live. If you really want body recomposition, you have to track changes in your body measurements. You have to track changes through your photos. You have to track changes through the way your clothes fit. You have to track changes through strength gains. It's all these other factors involved. And that will ensure that you are more successful at body recomposition. If you're on a program that just emphasizes weight loss or just certain things and doesn't help you in understanding these other things, then you're going to be disappointed really fast. This is very common. Most women self-sabotage. And I know, Sherry, you've been there, at least in the mind, but you caught it. I know, Sherry, you've caught it. Michelle, who reached out to me and said, I'm really struggling. And same conversation, Angelina as well, and a lot of people where it's like sort of things are happening, but you're still monitoring progress based on the scale. And I want you to put this down. If you are taking notes, you must monitor progress beyond the scale. Okay. So this is why a lot of my clients are very, very successful, because why? All my clients, you can jump in. We track everything. We're tracking all your food, all your, your photos, your metrics, your habits. If I've given you certain habits, maybe your water, we're tracking, like we want maybe your sleep, your steps, if you have a little Fitbit or whatever. We want those metrics. We also do fitness assessments sometimes. So for Angelina, her wall sit went from 1 minute to 2 minutes something. Her push-ups went from 10 to 19. So for her, not dropping as much weight as she thought, but seeing the amount of strength gain she's gained, and then dropping 60 inches and 11 point something inches off her belly, she couldn't argue that there was no results. But if we only looked at her weight, then she'd be like, Clarice, I work so hard. Nothing is happening, you know? But she couldn't argue with me. She's like, well, yeah, I guess lots of things are happening. Yeah. Of course, the thing that did it for her was her pant size. That was the home run for her. But I think that this is just so to emphasize, if you are looking for body recomposition, you really have to take away maybe what you might expect more in bulking and cutting, because in cutting, maybe you're going to see lots of weight drop really fast, especially if you're cutting for stage. You better believe you'd be dropping like crazy, but it's also not that sustainable. Like you will come back up. You will come back up, you know? So just recognizing the ins and outs, trying to help you have a good perspective on things, right? Sherry says coaching with Clarice will help with this. Lots of mindset work and tracking everything. Exactly. BC and AC. Exactly, Debbie. You're so funny. So that was actually oh, well, I guess one more thing I mentioned here is many people give up too soon without looking at truly the right things. So before you give up, the next time you say it does not work, make sure you are tracking the right things. And so in terms of like what I want you guys to put here is if anyone knows for themselves that they need better systems of tracking and accountability, I want you to put systems or tracking below or accountability, one of them. Maybe just put systems, maybe easiest systems. Because I will always say this phrase, you will never rise to the level of your goals. You will always fall to the level of your systems. And if I didn't have systems with any one of my clients, most of them would have quit a long time ago. Most of them would be like, I don't see the results I want. It should be faster. I should drop this faster. But because we have all our systems in place, we have all our tracking in place, it's very clear when things are happening. And even if they don't feel it, I just have to show them their photos. I show them their metrics. I show them what's happening. And we make the adjustments from there because we still need to make adjustments as we go along, right? So just, yeah, put tracking systems or accountability if you feel like you really need that structured guidance behind that, okay? Hi, Angela. Hi, Unique. Hi, Don. Thanks for joining. So a couple last notes, okay, before we wrap up here. So 29 eyeballs. Thank you for still staying with me. Okay, so a couple last notes. When you are tracking your calories, macros, and workouts, okay? Let's just say you're listening to me and maybe you get help, maybe you don't, maybe you do it on your own, okay? You need to ask yourself a few things, okay? Are you making the right adjustments with proper knowledge when you adjust your workouts and your macros? Okay. I want you to ask yourself this. If you don't have a coach working with you, I want you to ask yourself, are you making the with proper knowledge on your workouts and your macros? So I'm going to give you an example. You don't make the adjustments on your workout just because you get bored. A lot of people change their workouts. I'm bored. I'm bored. What's the next new YouTube move? And you take away the ability to look at trends over a long period of time, the trends of your workout. You change your workouts based on progressive overload principles. So you have to ask yourself, do you know how to change that? Or do you understand what you technically need to advance in that move? Another example, are you making proper adjustments with your macros? It's not, I don't see results and now I just like gonna change all the stuff I'm doing, right? Maybe, and then this actually is not macros. This is maybe not the best example. Maybe it's not your macros. Maybe it's something in the food you're eating that has an inflammatory marker in it, which happens a lot to my clients. This is why we eliminate inflammatory markers, because your inflammatory markers is impacting your ability to lose the weight because it's inflaming your body and you're eating more than you should in the processed side of things, and it's affecting that. So it's not just pure macro basis, but it's the quality of food. So maybe the adjustment is not where you think it needs to be, right? So another example. Another thing you need to ask yourself is, ready for this? This goes for all my clients as well, but with my clients, I'm going to make the call on the adjustment. Okay. Are you being honest when you're making adjustments? Okay. So sometimes you may be like, I think I need to change something because nothing is working. But you have to be honest with yourself. If you have not been consistently working out and nothing is changing in your body, and yes, you've been good with your nutrition, it doesn't mean that your nutrition needs to change. Maybe what you need to do is you need to get consistent with your workout. And I'm saying this from a real life example. I have had a few clients who, yes, I'm going to help you with your nutrition. I'm very good at that. But if you skip a lot of your workouts and you tell me my metrics are not changing as much as I want, well, you skipped out on a lot of your workouts. You are doing one workout a week or two workouts a week when you're supposed to do four, and you're not, and you're skipping so many things of what I've assigned you. Are you being honest with yourself? Because then that is saying, I need to change something when I haven't put in the work. I know this applies to even some of my own clients. I know I'm calling you out, but in a kind and loving way. Okay? Because some of my own clients would be like, maybe I should change this now. I should change this now. Well, I'm thinking, okay, we should change it if you have been consistent on what we said you should do and it's not working. Now we adjust it. But if you've been inconsistent, I can't, I'm changing things on a moving sand. It's not even accurate. You haven't put in the work and you're saying, like, I need to change stuff. And this is a lot of people in their own. They don't have a coach in themselves. They themselves have not been consistent, maybe in their eating or something not consistent in their workout, or their weekend warriors, meaning like, or weekenders. I don't know what to call them, but they're really good with their food Monday to Friday, and then they go off track on the weekends. And in their mind, you are so right, Clarice. Yeah. And Debbie says, I skip. I need to stop that. You must be talking to Debbie. I'm not just talking to you. I'm talking to a few people. Okay. But, thank you for being honest. Thank you for being honest. These are the things. So you have to recognize this. Okay. If you are training yourself or if you have a coach, before you ask yourself to change it or ask your coach to change something, please be honest. Are you consistent with the work that was asked of you? Okay. Yeah, guilty as charged. All of you guys are raising hands. I'm not pointing names. You guys are hilarious. Well, thank you for being honest. Thank you for being honest. But the very last thing is we often as well have blind spots and we cannot see our own tendencies. So if you are training yourself and you're wanting to have body recomposition, I think you just have to be careful or get some objective perspective, even if you don't have a coach, that you have someone else kind of look at what you're doing, because we have blind spots. And why I say this, I love you too, Marilyn. You're so sweet. You guys are wonderful. And it's out of love. I'm just trying to speak the truth to you guys. But I'm speaking this point about we have blind spots because Clarice has a few coaches, myself, and my powerlifting coach is giving me some training blocks right now, which you guys don't have to worry unless you're in powerlifting to worry about what's called training blocks. And he knows certain tendencies. I told him certain tendencies, and he has put certain things in each part of my program that I'm like, oh, okay, I don't like training this as much. Okay. And he put it in there because he knows I have preferences of what kinds of exercises I like to do. And I'm so happy. Like I told him on Monday when I saw him, he's like, so how do you like the workout program? And I said, I love it. You gave me exactly the things that I said I don't like. And then he's like, exactly. And we're going to track your trend. We're going to track all of this stuff. And obviously his app has a lot of tracking trends because powerlifting has a lot of your max weights and your all of this type of stuff, which again, don't have to worry too much if you're not in powerlifting realms. But it was really cool because it just goes to show, like, I'm a coach too. And of course I have blind spots. So you're going to have blind spots too. It's good to have someone who is outside of your head, who helps you with a program, who helps give you perspective, because they will always, if they're a good coach, elevate you to a higher level than where you are. And that's what I love about having my own coaches. And my other coach for Olympic, I send him videos all the time to correct me. So those of you, thank you, Unique. Sorry, I'm probably missing a lot of a lot of things here. I need assistance with learning, understanding macro adjustments, and I'm allergic to tons of food. Yes, Unique, we will reach out to you. Yes, exactly. Yes, Debbie, definitely I care. Yeah, Unique, we can message you about that. There's a lot of apps out there for different things, but we can message you on that. Um, so I think the reason why I gave you those last points is that some of you are ready to work with a coach. Some of you want to try to do it on your own, which is okay. But you just have to keep those questions in mind when you are making adjustments because body recomposition is a little bit tricky and your precision is really important. So if you feel like you need accountability or you need to have a coach, or accountability partner or somebody that is helping you, then put accountability below, okay? Um, and how do you know ultimately that your body recomposition is successful? So you ultimately will know if your body recomposition is successful if your metrics are changing, especially around the belly, right? For women, that belly is quite intense, so belly fat. The photos are changing. Your body is feeling toner, tighter, and the way clothes fit is much nicer. Those are all positives for body recomposition. And the scale is very inaccurate. So I wouldn't go by the scale very much. I would use it as an indicator, not a dictator. As in, like, it can show you certain things, but I don't go by your weight very much. I actually prefer to go much more by your metrics. So the next time you're reevaluating, have you had body recomposition? You look at clothes. You look at clothes size, you look at your body shape or photos, how you feel. That is much more accurate, right? Yeah, I see accountability there. Awesome. And Sherry says, I support burpee blind spots. I love it, Sherry. Be careful what you wish for, but she does have burpees now. Say Sherry's come a long way. She used to not be willing to do any burpees. She's willing to do burpees. So proud of you, Sherry. So again, just to wrap up everything, if you really want to learn how to recomposite your body, which is drop fat and build muscle at the same time, we either have our 16-week program, which is the transformation, 8-week program, which is our FFF group coaching program, and we have some smaller ones too. But there's a variety of things we can do to help someone. So if you want more help, please put programs below, and hopefully this was helpful. And that was exactly, I think, 1 hour. Am I right? Maybe not. Actually, that was more than an hour. I always go longer. So awesome. Hopefully this was helpful. Drop some hearts below if it has. And I will see all of you next week.